I want a divorce. Those 4 words hit me like a freight train at my son's graduation party. Linda didn't even have the decency to wait until we got home. She just stood there in our living room, surrounded by Jason's friends and family, and dropped that bomb like she was asking me to pass the salt. I'm Nathan Caldwell, 56 years old, and I thought I knew my wife of 25 years. Turns out I didn't know Jack. The room went dead silent. Jason, my 22-year-old son who'd just graduated from business school, looked like someone had punched him in the gut. Our guests started finding excuses to leave real quick. Can't say I blamed them. Uncle Kevin, my brother who was helping with the barbecue, just shook his head and started cleaning up without saying a word. Linda, what the hell? I managed to get out, but she was already heading for the door. We'll talk later, Nathan. I'm staying at my sister's tonight. And just like that, she was gone, leaving me standing there like an idiot in front of 30 people. That was 6 weeks ago, and let me tell you, those 6 weeks changed everything. See, I'm a CFO at Hartwell Industries. Been there for 15 years, worked my way up from junior accountant. I know numbers, I know patterns, and I damn sure know when something doesn't add up. So after Linda dropped her little announcement and disappeared, I did what I do best. I started looking at the books, our books. The first thing I noticed was our joint checking account. We usually kept about $12,000 in there for monthly expenses. It was sitting at $20,800. That got my attention real fast. But before I dive into that mess, let me back up a little. The warning signs had been there for months, maybe even longer. I just didn't want to see them. Linda started going to the gym about a year ago, said she wanted to get healthy and feel better about herself. Fair enough, we're both in our 50s, and staying in shape gets harder every year. But she went from never exercising to spending 2 hours a day at this place called Elite Fitness. Then came the new clothes. Linda had always been practical about shopping, but suddenly she was buying designer workout gear, fancy athletic shoes, and clothes that were way younger than what she normally wore. When I asked about it, she said she deserved to treat herself after 25 years of putting family first. The real red flag should have been the phone. Linda had always been open with her phone. Hell, we even shared the same Apple ID for years. But about 8 months ago, she changed her passcode and started keeping it face down all the time. When I mentioned it, she got defensive and said she needed privacy. I figured it was just middle-aged stuff, women going through changes, wanting to feel attractive again. I was traveling a lot for work. Merger season is always crazy in my business, so I wasn't home as much as I should have been. Maybe she was just feeling neglected. Looking back now, I feel like an idiot. But when you trust someone for 25 years, you don't expect them to just flip a switch and become someone else. The night after the graduation party disaster, I sat in my home office at 2 a.m. and pulled up 3 months of bank statements and credit card bills. What I found made my blood boil. Charges at Elite Fitness, $285 a month for some premium membership. Then there were the clothing purchases. Designer stuff from stores she'd never shopped at before. Victoria's Secret charges that made no sense because, let's be honest, our bedroom had been pretty quiet for the past year. But the real kicker was the restaurant charges. Expensive places, always for 2 people, always on days when I was traveling for work. Fleming's Steakhouse, Del Frisco's, places that cost $200 for dinner. The amounts were too high for lunch with girlfriends. This was dinner date money. I sat there staring at those statements, and everything clicked into place. My wife of 25 years was having an affair, and she'd been using our money to finance it. The math was brutal. Over the past 12 months, Linda had spent roughly $28,000 of our money on what was obviously another man. Gym membership, dinners, gifts, shopping sprees that coincided with my business trips. All documented, all traceable, all coming out of accounts that I'd been filling with my salary for the past 25 years. The next morning, I called my brother Kevin. He's a private investigator. Used to be a cop before he went private about 10 years ago. Kevin's divorced himself, went through his own hell with his ex-wife, so he understands how these things work. Nathan, you sure you want to go down this road? Kevin asked when I laid it all out for him over coffee at our usual diner. I'm already down the road, Kev. I just want to know where it leads. Kevin studied the bank statements I'd printed out. This is pretty damning stuff. You want me to get proof? I want to know everything. Who he is, how they met, how long it's been going on. Everything. It's going to cost you about $2,000 for a week of surveillance. And Nathan, once you know, you can't unknow it. Do it. Kevin's good at his job, real good. Within 48 hours, he called me with preliminary results. His name's Austin Walsh. 32 years old, personal trainer at Elite Fitness. Lives in one of those new apartment complexes on the west side, the kind that costs $2,800 a month. Drives a leased BMW 3 Series. How's a personal trainer afford all that? That's the million-dollar question, brother. The photos Kevin brought me 3 days later told the whole story. Austin Walsh wasn't just some random gym guy Linda had fallen for. This was calculated. Kevin spread the surveillance photos across my kitchen table like he was laying out evidence for a jury. Your wife's got expensive taste in boy toys. The first photo showed Linda and Austin walking out of a jewelry store in the Galleria. Austin was wearing a watch that I recognized, a Tag Heuer that retails for about $3,000. The timestamp showed it was taken on a Tuesday afternoon when I was in Dallas for a board meeting. She bought him that watch, Kevin said, paid cash. I followed them from the gym to the store. The next batch of photos were harder to look at. Linda and Austin at dinner, holding hands across the table. Austin's hand on Linda's back as they walked into his apartment complex. Linda leaving his place at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, looking like she'd spent the night. How long has this been going on? I asked. Best I can tell, about 10 months, maybe longer. Austin's been working at Elite Fitness for 14 months, and from what I gathered talking to other trainers, Linda was one of his first clients. Kevin pulled out a notebook. Here's what I found out about your boy Austin. Real piece of work. This isn't his first rodeo with wealthy married women. Before Elite Fitness, he worked at a gym in Dallas, got fired for inappropriate relationships with clients. Code for sleeping with married women and bleeding them dry. Son of a bitch. Gets better. Austin's got credit card debt up to his eyeballs, student loans he's not paying, and his rent's been late 4 times this year, until recently. The apartment manager told me someone's been making cash payments to cover his late fees. I didn't need 3 guesses to figure out who that someone was. There's more, Kevin continued. Austin drives a BMW 328i. Lease payments $520 a month. Guess who's been making those payments? Linda. Bingo. I talked to the finance manager at the BMW dealership. Some woman's been coming in every month with cash to cover Austin's lease. Matches Linda's description perfectly. The whole thing made me sick. For 25 years, I'd worked my ass off to build a life for my family. Started as a junior accountant making $35,000 a year, worked nights and weekends to get my CPA, clawed my way up to CFO. Linda never worked outside the house after Jason was born, said she wanted to be a full-time mom. I supported that decision because I thought we were building something together. Turns out she was just waiting for the right opportunity to cash out. Nathan, there's something else you need to see, Kevin said. He handed me a manila folder. Bank records for Austin's checking account. How'd you get these? Let's just say I still have friends in useful places. Austin's bank statements showed deposits that didn't match his trainer salary. Regular cash deposits of $800, $1,200, sometimes $1,500. Always within a day or two of Linda making large withdrawals from our accounts. She's been giving him cash directly, I realized. About $2,000 a month, from what I can calculate, on top of paying for dinners, gifts, and his car payments. I did the math in my head. Austin was making maybe $30,000 a year as a personal trainer. Linda was supplementing his income by $24,000 a year in cash, plus covering his major expenses. She'd essentially doubled his standard of living. With my money. What do you want to do with this information? Kevin asked. I want to talk to a lawyer. The next morning, I made an appointment with Patricia Morrison, the best divorce attorney in Houston. Her office was in one of those glass towers downtown, the kind that screams expensive but worth it. Patricia was exactly what I expected, sharp, professional, and predatory in the best possible way. She listened to my story without interruption, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. Texas is a community property state, Nathan, but adultery changes the equation significantly, especially when marital funds are being used to support the affair. How much are we talking about? I'd done the math obsessively. $28,000 over the past 12 months, all documented. And you have photographic evidence of the affair? Photos, bank records, credit card statements, witness statements from the BMW dealership and jewelry store. Patricia smiled like a shark that had just smelled blood in the water. We're going to have some fun with this case. She explained the concept of dissipation of marital assets. Basically, when one spouse wastes community property on an affair, the other spouse can claim that money back in the divorce settlement. In a standard divorce, Linda would be entitled to half of everything, But because she's been dissipating marital assets to support her boyfriend, she's going to get significantly less. How much less? If we can prove she wasted $28,000 on the affair, that comes off her half of the settlement. Plus, Texas courts don't look kindly on adultery. She might end up with 30 cents on the dollar instead of 50. I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. What's our first move? We file for divorce citing adultery and dissipation of assets. Then we freeze the joint accounts and credit cards. Can't let her spend any more of your money while the case is pending. When can we start? I'll have papers drawn up by tomorrow. Nathan, I have to ask, are you sure you want to go nuclear on this? Once we file these papers, there's no going back to friendly divorce. I thought about Linda holding hands with Austin. I thought about my money paying for his BMW. I thought about 25 years of marriage being thrown away for some gym rat with good abs. She made her choice, Patricia. Now she gets to live with the consequences. The divorce papers were served on a Thursday morning while Linda was at the gym. I know because Kevin was watching. She came home 20 minutes later, white as a sheet, clutching the legal documents like they might bite her. I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the Wall Street Journal like it was any other morning. The look on her face when she walked in was almost worth the $28,000 she'd stolen from me. Nathan, what is this? Looks like divorce papers to me. Isn't that what you wanted? But it says adultery and dissipation of assets. Nathan, we can work this out without lawyers. I folded my newspaper and looked at her for the first time in weeks. Really looked at her. The new haircut that probably cost $200. The workout clothes that cost more than my first car payment. The manicured nails and professional makeup, all paid for with money I'd earned while she was screwing her personal trainer. Linda, we tried working it out. You worked it out by spending $28,000 of our money on your boyfriend. So now we're going to let the lawyers work it out. She sat down across from me, and for a second, she looked like the woman I'd married 25 years ago. Before the lies, before Austin, before she decided our marriage wasn't worth fighting for. How did you find out? Bank statements don't lie, Linda. Neither do credit card bills. Or photographs. Her face went even whiter. Photographs? I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Kevin's surveillance photos. Linda and Austin coming out of the jewelry store, Austin wearing his new watch. You bought him a $3,000 watch with our money. On a Tuesday afternoon when you told me you were having lunch with your sister. Linda stared at the photo like she couldn't believe it was real. Nathan, I can explain. No need. My lawyer already explained everything to me. In Texas, when you waste marital assets on an affair, it's called dissipation. The court doesn't look kindly on it. What do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You want a divorce? Fine. But you're not walking away with half of what I spent 25 years building so you can shack up with some gym rat who's probably screwing 2 other married women on the side. That hit home. Linda's face crumpled like I'd slapped her. We're not just... Linda, the guy's a professional. This is what he does. You're not special. You're just the one with the deepest pockets. The next few days were interesting. Linda tried calling me at work, showing up at the house when I wasn't there, even had her sister call to mediate. But Patricia had been clear. No communication except through lawyers. Kevin kept me updated on the fallout. Austin was getting nervous. Without Linda's cash payments, he was struggling to maintain his lifestyle. The BMW lease was late, his apartment rent was overdue, and Elite Fitness was starting to ask questions about why one of their trainers was suddenly having money problems. Linda's been trying to get cash together, Kevin reported during one of our coffee meetings. She tried to withdraw $5,000 from the savings account, but the bank froze it per your lawyer's instructions. What's Austin's reaction? He's panicking. Guy's been living above his means for so long, he doesn't know how to scale back. Word around the gym is he's been hitting up other female clients for loans. That's when Linda made her first mistake. She called me directly, crying, begging me to unfreeze the account so she could help Austin through a rough patch. I recorded the call. Nathan, please. Austin's going to lose his apartment if he can't make rent. I just need $2,000 to help him get caught up. Linda, you're asking me to give money to the man you cheated. On me with. Do you hear yourself? It's not like that. Austin's a good person who made some mistakes. He needs help. Then let him get help from his family, or get a second job. Or maybe stop driving a BMW he can't afford. The call lasted 15 minutes. Linda alternated between begging, threatening, and trying to guilt trip me. By the end, she was sobbing about how Austin might leave her if she couldn't help him financially. I hung up and immediately sent the recording to Patricia. The second mistake came a week later. Linda got desperate and tried to use our joint credit card to get cash advances for Austin. The card was declined because Patricia had frozen all our joint accounts, but the attempt showed up on my credit monitoring alerts. Patricia was delighted. She's making our case for us. Every time she tries to access marital funds for her boyfriend, it's more evidence of dissipation. The third mistake was the biggest one. Linda convinced Austin to call me directly. "Mr. Caldwell, this is Austin Walsh. I think we should talk." "I don't think we have anything to discuss, Austin. Look, I know this situation is complicated, but Linda and we love each other. She's going through a hard time right now, and I was hoping you might consider unfreezing some of the accounts so she can get back on her feet." The ball's on this guy. He was asking me to finance his affair with my wife. "Austin, let me explain something to you. You've been living off my money for the past year, driving my car, wearing my watch, eating my food. That's over now. If you want to be with Linda, you're going to have to support her yourself. But she doesn't have access to any money. That's what happens when you cheat on your husband and waste marital assets. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to become a kept man." Austin hung up on me, but I'd recorded that call too. Patricia was practically giddy when I played her the recordings. "Nathan, this is beautiful. Not only do we have evidence of the affair and financial dissipation, we now have recorded admissions from both parties. Linda's going to be lucky to walk away with 25% of the marital assets. When do we go to court?" "Settlement conference is next week. Want to bet they're going to be much more reasonable about negotiations?" The Best Revenge, Part 4, Final. The settlement conference was held in Patricia's law office on a rainy Tuesday morning. Linda walked in with her attorney, a public defender type who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. She'd lost weight, and not in a good way. The stress was eating her alive. Austin wasn't there. Smart move on his part. "My client is prepared to offer a 60-40 split of marital assets," Linda's lawyer started. Patricia didn't even blink. "My client is prepared to accept 85-15, with Linda responsible for her own legal fees and credit card debt." "That's unreasonable." Mrs. Caldwell contributed 25 years to this marriage. Mrs. Caldwell also contributed $28,000 of marital funds to her boyfriend's lifestyle. She's lucky we're not pursuing criminal charges for theft. I watched Linda's face crumple. She kept looking at me like I might suddenly remember the good times and go easy on her. But every time I felt a twinge of sympathy, I remembered that watch on Austin's wrist. The negotiation lasted 3 hours. By the end, Linda agreed to 75-25 split, which meant she walked away with about $180,000 in cash and retirement funds. I kept the house, my 401k, and most importantly, my dignity. "What about Austin?" I asked Kevin during our celebration dinner that night. "Funny you should ask." Kevin grinned and pulled out his phone. Elite Fitness fired him last week. Too many complaints from female clients about inappropriate behavior. Turns out when you're desperate for money, you get sloppy about who you hit on. Where's he now? Last I heard, he moved back to Oklahoma, living with his parents. The BMW got repossessed and his fancy apartment kicked him out for non-payment. And Linda? She tried to follow him, drove to Oklahoma City with whatever cash she had left. Austin wouldn't even see her. Apparently he told his parents she was some crazy woman who'd been stalking him. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. Linda moved to an apartment across town, the kind of place you rent when your credit's shot and you're living on a tight budget. She called a few times in the beginning, usually after she'd been drinking, wanting to know if I ever thought about getting back together. Truth is, I don't miss being lied to, cheated on, and financially manipulated. I don't miss feeling like I wasn't good enough for someone I'd spent 25 years taking care of. Jason handled the whole thing better than I expected. He's a smart kid, takes after his old man. When I finally told him the whole story, he was more angry at Linda than sympathetic. "Dad, I'm proud of how you handled this," he told me over dinner last month. "You could have gotten nasty and dragged it through the courts for years, but you just played it smart and let the facts speak for themselves. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people face the consequences of their choices, son." What happened to Mom anyway? I haven't heard from her in weeks. I'd heard through the grapevine that Linda was working part-time at a department store and sharing an apartment with another divorced woman. The glamorous life she'd imagined with Austin had lasted exactly as long as the money. She's figuring out how to live within her means, Probably the first time in her adult life she's had to do that. These days, I'm doing pretty well. Got a promotion at work. Senior vice president now with a nice bump in salary. Started dating a woman named Carol who works in our accounting department. She's 48, divorced, has her own money and her own life. No drama, no games, just honest conversation and mutual respect. The house feels different now. Lighter somehow. I can watch what I want on TV, eat what I want for dinner, and not worry about walking on eggshells around someone who's clearly unhappy with their life. Carol and I are taking things slow. She knows the whole story, and she respects how I handled it. You could have destroyed her financially if you'd wanted to, she said, but you just took back what was yours and moved on. That's exactly right. I didn't want to destroy Linda. I just wanted her out of my life so I could build something better, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes I run into people who knew us as a couple, and they ask what happened. I just tell them we grew apart, wanted different things. No point in airing dirty laundry or making Linda look worse than she already made herself look. But if some guy asks me for advice about marriage, about warning signs, about protecting yourself, I tell them to pay attention to the money. Money doesn't lie. Bank statements don't have ulterior motives. And if something doesn't add up, it's probably because someone's cooking the books. The best part about being on my own is the freedom to be myself again. For the last few years of my marriage, I felt like I was constantly trying to figure out what was wrong, what I could do better, how I could make Linda happy. Turns out the problem wasn't me at all. The problem was that Linda had checked out of our marriage but was too cowardly to say so. Now I wake up every morning knowing exactly where I stand. My money is my money. My time is my time. And if I want to spend either one on someone, it's because I choose to, not because I'm being manipulated into it. That's worth more than any settlement or revenge scheme. That's just called living your life on your own terms. And at 56, I'm just getting started.